the United Nations, because we are the only UN entity entirely dedicated to the peaceful uses of outer space. We promote international cooperation in the peaceful use of outer space, and as well as support countries in utilizing space technologies and application for sustainable economic and social development. We are at the center of multilateralism. We support member states in discussing and in their intergovernmental deliberation. And we also are a broker and convener of the global space communities. We have different forums for discussions, such as the Workspace Forum. So really gathering the space community, member states, public organizations, as well as private company and the civil society. I'm sorry if I turn my head, sometimes you can't hear, but I'm trying to remember. And then the last point is that we are a capacity builder, and we really aim to increase access to space for member states and, of course, for people. I focused on the capacity building part, just one of the elements we do. And here are a series of projects that we do at UNOOSA. As Julia was saying, I'm in charge of some of them: space for women, space economy, space sustainability, and space for youth. But we do much more than that. So focusing on, for instance, providing opportunities to research, to space and non-space STEM engineers and professionals, having opportunities to do experiments in space facilities. This is just an example. And then on water, climate action, and so on. But before I go to the, oops, okay. And this is the next slide. Sorry, it's not amazing. But I wanted to ask you, do you know what have all these young people in common? Would you have an idea?
Love for space.
Yes, definitely. And I'd like to add something. These are all young people who have participated or benefited from the activities of UNOOSA. We have winners of the Space for Youth competitions. We have Space for Women mentors and other students. I know Fatima, she went to Japan to study, to do her graduate degree in satellite development, for instance. And these are all opportunities that we offered at UNOOSA. Before going though to the, the topic of gender equality, I would like, and STEM and space, I would like to briefly mention what we do with Space for Youth. So Space for Youth was launched in 2018 as a way to, let's say, make sure that UNOOSA was also conducting some activities according to the strategy, the 2030 strategy of the Secretary General for Young People. And through Space for Youth, we aim at bringing the benefits of science, technology, applications, STEM career and education to young children and students and professionals across the world. We also try to provide learning and job opportunities, mentorship and networks. And we want to make sure that they are involved in and engaged in different channels. One of these channels is the Space for Youth competition, which is an essay competition, where basically in the past years, we've asked students and young professionals to tell us how space technologies, applications, science can contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And we do this essay competition in partnership with the Space Generation Advisory Council. Very important to mention. And another, here you see on the right, there are the Space for Youth competition winners of last year, who are right now in the US for their space camp. That was the award. And then another good news is actually that we will launch a 4th edition of the Space for Youth competition. So if you're between 18 and 35, you can participate. So keep an eye on our social media. Yeah. Okay, and now let me just check if it was, yeah. Gender inequality. Let's move to the key topic. So yeah, do you see something weird? Well, yes, there are no countries that have achieved gender equality yet. And according to the World Economic Forum, it will take around 136 years to reach gender equality in general. And for some countries, this is just an average, because for some countries, it's going to take much longer. So the picture is not promising at all. Looking at gender equality in a broader area, there has been some improvement. For instance, the literacy rate has increased over time, but still, like the 2/3 of the illiterate populations is composed by women. So we have a negative majority there. And then if we look at the labor force, around 49% of the world's working age women are in the labor force, compared to 75% of the men within the working age. And also, women earn 23% less than men. If we look at instead, more specifically, STEM, less than 30% of scientific and technological researchers are women. So we have a problem. And why should we care about gender equality? I'm sure, like, if you're here, I'm sure most of you already also know why we need to care about this. I just wanted to bring this as a, what it's written in the United Nations Charter, which says, we, the peoples of the United Nations, are determined to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the equal rights of men and women, and of all nations, large and small. And this is really the foundation charter of the United Nations, which was written in 1945. And women, like achieving gender equality and women's empowerment is very important to realize women's rights, to make sure that women are empowered, because when they are empowered and they are financially independent, we can reduce the risks of violence, of abuse, and of other negative situations like discrimination. Another example is that women who are better educated experience less maternal deaths and child deaths, which is also something extremely concrete. And if we want to look at the economic argument, we can see that reducing the gender gap may bring as much as 12 trillion USD to the global GDP by 2025. Why gender equality in STEM? So the underrepresentation of women in the technology industry has, of course, it really hinders the economic empowerment of women and reinforces social inequalities. And now, XX% of future jobs would require STEM-related skills. No, it's not a mistake. It's not that I forgot to put it. I just wanted to ask you how much you think actually is that percentage. 90%. Well done. I guess that's a statistic that is heard. 90% of future jobs will require STEM-related skills. So this means that women must possess STEM-related skills if they want to be competitive in the labor market, in the employment market, because if I don't have the right skills, how can I get a job? And this, if that is what happens, this automatically reinforces again gender inequality. STEM fields are key to dealing with global challenges like climate change, because women and men live and experience different situations in a different way. So bringing the experience, the skills of people with a diverse background can support us with improving, with realizing the solutions that we need to have global challenges. And the diversity of skills and perspective leads to greater innovation and success, because I experience something different than what my counterpart, for instance, a man, would experience. So if my experience is different, then we need to make sure that when we find a solution, my experience is actually considered. And if we don't use technology in the right way, this would actually, again, reinforce social bias. So when we create or develop new technological products or services, we need to make sure that all the needs of all users are actually taken into account. Because in this way, you will create a product, a service that can be used by everyone and everyone can benefit from it. And then if we look at the specifically, well, STEM and also space tend to offer high earning jobs, which, as I was saying at the beginning, provide more financial freedom, and in this case, a significant contribution to household income. Some of the reasons why we have gender gap in STEM, these are just the main ones, but I'm sure we can go ahead and find more. The lack of role models, because if you don't see a person, if you have a group of engineers and you see only 20% of them are women, then as a little girl, it's going to be more difficult for you to relate and think about, I can become an engineer. So the lack of role models is a problem. The lack of encouragement from peers, teachers, and parents, because they just say, well, girls, women are better at some humanities rather than STEM subjects. Girls have a limited exposure to the creativity and contributions that STEM can actually make. And then if we look at the work environment, one of the problems, there is a bias in the hiring process. So usually male candidates are selected more often, regardless of the qualification. And then, as I was mentioning with the example of the engineers, we often portray STEM as male roles. Again, if you think that an engineer or another type of professions can be just a man, then this will undermine your confidence, interest in, and willingness to pursue STEM. And here it's, when we look at STEM over time, like the education, STEM education actually increased over time, but there is a leaky pipeline between education and employment. And here, and if you have the chance, I would suggest you read this Future is Equal, an ESCAP report. Actually, the report focuses specifically on some Southeast Asian countries, but it's something that is common to everyone. And so here there are some elements that throughout, in the labor, in the employment market, you will find when trying to enter the market and once you're actually there. So, and this I was mentioning before, the hiring process, gender discrimination during the hiring process. So there is stigma and stereotypes about women. The priority is given to female candidates with no female responsibilities. I won't read them all because there are a lot. Working condition, gender wage gap, probably one of the most evident. Workplace harassment, a work environment with a male-dominant culture. Double burden, women tend to have a higher burden when it comes to household. And career advancement, women are less likely to be promoted and are in less leadership position compared to their male counterpart. And now let's look at the women in space industry, let's get to the point. And again, I put another XX. Women represents only around XX% of the space industry workforce. 22%. So actually lower than what. And this is actually remaining the same with statistics from 30 years ago. So that's really bad. And of all the people who travel to space, only 12% have been women. And here I actually I read this interesting study. It's actually a study on the space workforce in the UK. So this is UK focused, but I'm sure it applies to many countries. And because sometimes we focus on measuring the participation of women in a very quantitative way, but we don't look at the qualitative aspect. So for instance, one of the findings of this study was that women feel less welcome in the sector than men. 47% of women feel always welcome compared to 79% of men. Young women are most likely to witness or experience discrimination. Women earn less, and this gap actually widens as you get to senior roles. And women are less likely to be promoted to senior roles, 20% versus 43%. So this applies, very interesting, but applies to many other countries. So what to do? There are many things. The good thing actually is that we can take steps. We can take action to actually improve the situation. And this has already been done, at least from a STEM and also STEAM perspective, but we need to do more. Some of the elements, the activities that we could do to try to solve the problems we highlighted before is increase the number of women as role models, develop mentorship programs, increase STEM education without introducing that social bias, create fora and networks for discussion where women can share their experiences in a safe environment, improve the availability of data, because a lot of data that we have is a bit old. And as I was saying before, not just merely quantitative, but also looking at the experience in a qualitative way. Provide financial assistance, for instance, through scholarships. And then there are a series of policies that can be taken, for instance, by government, setting quotas on companies' boards, or private sector creating internal strategies on diversity inclusion, for instance. So there's plenty to do. And what did we do at UNOOSA? So we created the Space for Women program, and it's a program that goes back to 2017 when we had our first Space for Women expert meeting, and it was established to facilitate access to STEM education and STEM careers, as well as space education and career for women and girls. And our purpose, the purpose of this program, the goal is really to empower young women and girls and make sure that they're not just beneficiary of this program or beneficiary of the benefits of outer space, but also that they are active contributors. And I mean, you're already doing it, so that's great to see. Space for Women. So just to highlight a few of the elements that we do with the Space for Women program, we have an online portal, we have mentorship and networking programs and conferences. So the Space for Women portal, I will encourage you, actually there is an ad that shouldn't be there, but spaceforwomen.unoosa.org. And it aims at communicating opportunities in STEM, raising awareness about such opportunities, and provide a global hub for, within the UN to make sure that we communicate with one voice at UN level. And it was launched in 2020. The mentorship program, are there any mentors and mentees here or former? I see one. Well, good to have one. So this is a program, it says, bringing together mentors and mentees and mentors to really guide and support younger women and students to find their way in STEM education and in the space sector. And we ran 2 editions in 2020, 2021. We had 56 mentors with over 140 mentees. And we recently ran an evaluation of the program, which was very positive. And this is one of the sentences that I took out, but there were many more. And as you can read, it says, I will be forever grateful to my mentor for her support, guidance, and wise words. This experience has changed my life. And this is quite a big statement actually to say. So I was really happy. We were really happy to read this. And another good thing is that we will run a new edition. So towards the end of the year, theoretically, we will be able to run a new edition. Actually, not theoretically, but between the end of this year and next year, we will have the third round. So keep an eye again on our social media. And if you're interested, of course, apply to become a mentor or a mentee. The network here, like while the mentorship is being more active, the network, like in the past months, it has been a bit less active. But the idea behind the network is to be really a professional and educational network at global level, allowing all these mentors, experts, or anyway, advocate of gender equality in the STEM and space sector to, I'm almost done, to exchange, to, for instance, to share information about initiative aligned with the SDGs, and anyway, try to engage around topic that relates to gender equality. And this is another sentence from one of the network participants saying that it gave her the opportunity to connect with like-minded women from all over the world. The initiative is so important in raising the profile of professional women within the space industry. And conferences. So you probably all know that we have the Space for Women Expert meeting upcoming, organized with the Ministry of Science and ICT of Korea, Pari, and Kasim. Stay tuned. Well, actually, some of you, I think, will participate in the coming days. And I would like now to close with, allow me to say, actually, this is not the first one I mentioned. There was one in 2017 in New York. There was one that was organized with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Brazil. Well, actually, of Brazil, but it was in the UAE due to, there was also COVID in between. And we will also have next year another meeting and the following year. More information to come. I will close now with this, where you can read on the back, women in STEM do not say sorry. These, probably you recognize them from the previous pictures, are the Space for Youth competition winners. And they just, as I mentioned, they are right now in the US for their space camp, and they sent me this picture, and I thought it was a nice picture to end my presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Great. We do have a moment just for maybe one question. Has a question? Raise your hand.
Not all the time.
No question. Well, I can ask a question. So if we want to apply for the mentorship program as a mentee, for example, what's your advice on how to put forward our candidate best, how to get this spot? Because I imagine it's quite competitive. Well, I think it's, I'm sure most of you are really passionate about spaces. If you are here, there is a reason. As long as you really bring forward that motivation and you actually ensure that this is also, you kind of make us understand that it's part of your career plans, or anyway that you really would like to receive that guidance and support and mentorship. I think really trying to let us understand your motivation and your careers, your ideas for the future might be quite helpful for us to, give you a positive reply. And if you apply, same for the Space for Youth competition. And if you have any questions, I'll be here around later today and tomorrow. So just come to me. I'm happy to talk to anybody. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So that wraps up day one. Thank you so much for all your great work today. I hope that you have a little bit more for tomorrow. But as a reminder, we are going to dinner tonight from 7 to 9:30 is our dinner. Hopefully we won't take the full time. We might be able to walk around a little bit if it's not too rainy. But we're going to meet in the parking lot of the I Hotel at 6:30 everybody's kind of aware around that is. We can all meet there. We can connect on WhatsApp or Discord if you need instructions. As mentioned, we're going to be meeting at 6:30 for that. Please take everything with you. This is you're not able to get back into the building later, so hopefully you have everything with you, and please be sure to have everything clean. And other than that, oh, and food. We have food right outside the door. We really don't want to throw it away, so if you want to take it home with you, that'd be really appreciated. Yeah, it's just right outside the door on a small table. And yes. So we also, if everybody's available, we want to take a quick photo outside by the tower. So we can move over there as a group, as long as you all cleaned up. I think that's going to be our next step. Any questions? Okay, so we're going to start. Everybody can go to the Space for Women poster. We're just going to do a photo in front of that as we are a partner event for that. So yeah, thank you so much. And just make sure that we have the NASA booklets, the NASA comic books. We have some of our sponsor pamphlets. Be sure to grab those as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
What is the menu for tonight?
Menu?
Yeah.
So it's like a buffet.